Hello everyone, this is podfic, back with another podfic. Today I'll be reading The Mist Protects by Tea Party Canon, and this will be Chapter 3, Trial by Blood. Once Tomio and Yushiro had departed, Muichiro was left with a lot to think about. When Muichiro woke up again, no worse for wear after the medicine, and daylight graced the skies, their little group let out once more. 2 more days later, the Ubuyashiki estate was finally in sight. Yuichiro couldn't help a slight feeling of awe at the size of the manor. It wasn't ornate and flashy, as he'd sort of expected, but it was big. Bigger than the Wisteria Inn, and on an entirely different level from their own home. But then he remembered why they were here in the first place, and his mood soured. Walking up to the gate, a pair of attendants in a uniform Yuichiro had never seen before bowed. One of the men spoke. "Lady Amane, Lord Rengoku, it is good to see you safe. Please, come with me. The master and the reigning hashira are waiting for you." "Thank you," Amane nodded as the man led them around the path to the side. Nervous anticipation built up inside Yuichiro as they walked. "What's going on?" he whispered towards Kyojuro. If the other hashira has been called, then that means a trial is to be conducted." "A trial?" Yuichiro had a bad feeling about this. "You mean about Mui?" Kyojuro nodded. Indicting a demon into the Demon Slayer headquarters is no small decision. The rest of the hashira must approve, and Muichiro's trustworthiness around humans should be evaluated as well." "Are you kidding? It's been days and he hasn't even touched another human. Isn't that enough proof?" "If it helps, I am on your side, Tokito. I will vouch for Muichiro's integrity during the trial." Yuichiro still didn't like the man, but admittedly that did help his nerves, only somewhat, though. Before long, the man guiding them led into a large courtyard, bowed, and then quickly departed. He didn't miss the nervous glance the man gave him as he walked past, however. Kyojuro placed his hand on Yuichiro's shoulder and led him along. He brought him to a part of the courtyard next to a large engawa. Sitting on the ground were 6 people, each distinguishable by their colorful outfits. These must be the hashira. All eyes went to Kyojuro, then to him, but Yuichiro refused to meet their gaze. He looked to the engawa, where a man sat serenely in the shade. Was this the master? He looked young, but there was a strange purple discoloration to his face, running from his forehead and down over one milky white eye. It made him look sickly. Kyojuro simply led him to stand between the hashira and the master, then took his place between a large man whose hands were clasped in prayer and another guy wearing jewelry that reflected the sunlight right into Yuichiro's eyes. Once Kyojuro was seated, the hashira bowed as one. "Master, it is a pleasure to see you in good health," Kyojuro greeted him. "And you as well, Kyojuro. I thank you for accompanying Amane on this journey. It would seem it was more eventful than expected," the master said. His voice was calm and soothing. It spoke of someone with great wisdom. "Indeed, it was a truly eye-opening experience." On the other side of the line of hashira, a man in black and white clothes, with bandages on his face and a snake around his neck, looked up and spoke. "Is that it, the demon?" He pointed to the basket on Yuichiro's back. His voice sounded unfriendly, and Yuichiro slid the basket straps off his shoulders and clung to it protectively. The woman sitting next to him, clad in a haori resembling a butterfly's wings, spoke next with a sweet smile. Her voice was much more measured and curious in comparison. "Young man, what is your name?" "Tokito, Muichiro." He didn't trust these people for a second. "This is my twin brother Muichiro." "And how old are you two?" 11. I'm the older one." The butterfly woman smiled sympathetically. It made his blood boil. Why was everyone looking at him like they were helpless children? Okay, he knew why, but it made him furious nonetheless. He didn't want or need their pity. "Yuichiro, please tell us what happened." The master spoke, catching everyone's attention. "It is important we understand your situation, so tell us every detail, no matter how unimportant it may seem." The hashira's eyes turned back to him expectantly, and Yuichiro grit his teeth, trying to find his voice through the immense pressure pushing down on him. "About 8 days ago, my brother and I were attacked by a demon. Our parents are dead, and we live alone in the mountains. The demon's first slash caught my chest, and I couldn't move, so I don't know exactly what happened after that. But Muichiro drove the demon out of the house and killed it, I think." "Seriously? A scrawny kid took out a demon? Now that's flashy!" The jewelry-adorned man laughed. The snake man narrowed his eyes. "Without even a Nichirid blade. I don't believe it." "It is possible, though." The butterfly woman eyed a white-haired man whose skin was covered in scars. The man ignored her, glaring silently at Yuichiro. "Yuichiro and Muichiro are descendants of the first swordsmen to use breaths. I believe that talent still runs through their blood," the master added. Yuichiro resisted the urge to scoff, as if something as vague as talent was really passed down through blood. Neither he nor his brother had ever touched a sword in their lives. "Like I said, I couldn't move to see for myself, but then I heard my brother screaming in pain, so I forced myself to get up. By the time I found him, though, he'd already become a demon." "How tragic for 2 brothers, twins, to suffer such a fate," the large man cried, tears streaming down his face. His hands were still clasped in prayer. "It is fortunate that you survived." "But that's just it. Mui didn't try to hurt me," Yuichiro continued. "When I found him, he was eating something else, the demon that attacked us." A brief moment of stunned silence followed. The butterfly woman put a hand to her chin and thought. Demons are known to eat other demons if no other food sources are available. We see this all the time on the mountain used for final selection. But if his story is true, then there was an injured human in the same area, the snake man pointed out. Why would a newly turned and starving demon ignore such easy prey? I don't know, Muichiro admitted, but it's the truth. Over these past 8 days, Muichiro has never once attacked me or any other human. Man, so unflashy. He's family, so of course you're gonna vouch for him. Yo, Kyojiro! Flashy man nudged the aforementioned hashira. You were with the kid, right? Let's hear your input here. It is the truth, Kyojiro, and crossed his arms and spoke without a moment of hesitation. Young Muichiro has not attempted to attack a human in all the time I've known him. On the contrary, his demonic instincts only came out when faced with another demon on the way here. Oh, that's quite curious. The butterfly woman smiled. She then poked the arm of a dreary-looking man wearing a split-patterned howari, the only one who had yet to say a word up to this point. Tomioka, you somehow been even quieter than usual. What are your thoughts on this? If it still shows demonic instincts toward demons, doesn't that mean it's still wild and dangerous? The man, Tomioka, finally spoke in a voice that spoke volumes of his reluctance to do so. The butterfly woman clapped her hands. Ah, a good point. But then again, if they're only directed at demons instead of humans, does it really matter? Our own Shinizugawa is rather demonic himself, wouldn't you say? I think demonic describes you better, Kocho. Tomioka muttered, a dangerous aura surrounding the butterfly woman as she looked moments from strangling him. Yuichiro watched all of this with no small amount of horror and disgust. These weirdos were the greatest demon slayers in the corps. He at least appreciated Kyojiro for his steadfast support of him and his brother, but his respect for the rest of the hashiras was dropping by the second. Mui's not... That's it, I've had enough of this farce. The white-haired man snapped suddenly, ignoring the shocked stares of his companions. He marched up, and before Yuichiro could even think of protesting, snatched the basket out of his hands. Hey! He shouted, immediately climbing to his feet, but the man ignored him and jumped up into the shade of the Angawa. Shinizugawa, what do you think you're doing? Kojo asked with a dangerous tone in her sweet voice. I'm taking action while the rest of you just sit around. Arguing, Shinizugawa growled. He threw the basket to the ground and pulled his sword from its sheath. Yuichiro's breath caught in his throat. A demon that only leads demons, you say? Sounds like this one's just a little less picky to me. Shinizugawa's sword stabbed through the basket, and Yuichiro screamed, Muichiro! Mui had spent much of the day in a haze. Hours of travel beneath the sun left very little for him to do except watch as the mist around him grew thicker. So he wandering through the mist in his mind, searching for anything he recognized, faces, feelings, anything. He could spend hours searching and finding nothing, but his brother's face, a face he might have also forgotten if it weren't the same as his own. It took time for him to pull himself from such dazes, unless something on the outside pulled him free first, so when a sword stabbing through his precious basket, narrowly missing his body, he was caught more than a little off guard. The mist thinned as his brain registered danger beyond the basket. Muichiro! That was Yui's voice. It was full of worry and urgency. Seconds later, the lid of the basket was ripped off, but something told him he shouldn't come out yet. He huddled down, trying to make himself small. Seconds passed before his brother called out again. Mui, it's okay. Hey! Mui's breath caught in his throat. Yui sounded distressed. Was he okay? Let go of me, damn it! Mui! His heart stopped. Yui was in trouble. He pushed against the basket, knocking it over to face a group of strange, colorful humans. Yui was in front of him, held by his yukata in the grasp of a man with 2 different colored eyes. Yui! He crawled to the basket, ready to leap to his brother's aid, but the sunlight, mere feet away, stopped him cold. His body screamed at him to not get any closer, to stay away, and so he found himself unable to move, paralyzed with fear. Something grabbed his hair and pulled him with incredible force. Mui yelped as he was roughly thrown back, away from the sunlight and his brother. His body hit and rolled across the smooth wood floor. Shinizugawa! That is highly uncalled for! The voice sounded familiar. Was it the fiery owl man? Shut up! Do you really think a demon can control its instincts around human blood? That's bullshit, and I'll prove it. This new voice was not familiar, but it was filled with hostility. Mui dug his claws into the floor and righted himself onto all fours, glaring and growling at his attacker. A white-haired man covered in scars glared back with utter contempt, a green and black sword in his hand. Mui could tell by his scent that he was human, not demon, human. Mui didn't want to fight him, but he would defend himself if he had to. With the sun shining bright, there was nowhere to run. He growled again in warning, but instead of attacking, the human put his blade to his own arm and grinned savagely as he drew it across his skin. Blood poured from his wound, the scent drifting to Mui's nose. Instantly, the world tilted. Everything suddenly felt strange around him as an overwhelming scent fogged up his mind. different from the ever-present mist, a thick, rich smell, heavy on his tongue and alluring in a way nothing else he'd ever tasted could compare to. Louis stumbled and struggled to stay upright, his balance suddenly thrown off. All his other senses felt muffled. The world itself moved more slowly. His mouth watered, saliva dripping, as his breaths became heavy and haggard. It was taking everything he had just to keep himself from pouncing at the human with this savage, dizzyingly powerful blood. Muichiro! Yui's voice again. It was muffled, slow, but he heard it. Something broke through the fog and flashed across his mind. He was back home. Yui was making dinner, a strained expression on his face. Mui was talking to him, a voice full of innocence and emotion. Listen, let's become swordsmen. I can't believe that demons actually exist in this world, but if we can do something to help, I bet you and I can save people. Save them from the demons. Save humans from demons. But the only demon here was... Mui's eyes widened. He opened his mouth, fangs bared. Then he sunk his teeth deep into the flesh of his left arm. His own blood welled up in his mouth, coating his tongue, and the harsh metallic scent flooded his nose and overpowered that of the savage blood. With a snarl rumbling in his throat, Mui wrenched his gaze away from the white-haired human's blood. Silence fell, and Mui continued to growl quietly around his arm, glaring at nothing, his chest heaving as he tried to calm himself down, his head cleared of the blood-induced dizziness, the mist creeping back in to smother the rage and hunger building inside him. His own flesh and blood was not appetizing, now that he thought about it. The blue-haired demon hadn't tasted very good, either. He thought that his first demon had tasted better, but maybe he'd just been too hungry to care. But he could tolerate it. He would not hurt a human. Mui bit down harder, willing the mist to cover up the memory of that strange blood. Save humans, protect humans, destroy demons. His blood boiled. The mist churned as rage burned against it. Destroy demons, destroy demons, destroy demons. The smile fell from Shinizugawa's face as an expression of pure shock replaced it. Silence fell over the garden, and Muichiro saw his chance. He drove his elbow hard into the snake hashira's stomach. Distracted as he was caught off guard and let go of Yuichiro's yukata. The older twin immediately climbed up to the Ingawa and ran to his brother's side. Mui, are you okay? He asked frantically. Muichiro growled and nodded as blood dripped down his arm and into his mouth. His eyes were still dilated, with newly formed slit pupils, narrowed down to cracks in anger. He refused to let go, pulling away as Yuichiro reached for his arm. Yuichiro stopped, recognizing that this was his way of maintaining control of himself. The master smiled serenely. He was the only one that didn't seem surprised by the start of events. I believe that answers that, then. We have proof now that Muichiro will not attack a human. But, Shinizugawa started. They have my blessing, Sonami. The master interrupted, soft but firm. I understand your reservations, but you cannot deny that you have just seen with your own eyes. I ask that you all accept these children as well. There was a long, uncertain silence before the snake man spoke. With all due respect, master, what is to become of these two? Surely they must stay here. A demon, even one as strange as this one, can't be allowed to simply roam free. Indeed, for the time being, Yuichiro and Muichiro will remain here. They can take this time to rest and recover while we decide on more permanent arrangements. I trust there will be no objections to that. No one said anything. Even Sonami had begrudgingly fallen to one knee in respect of the master's wishes. Very well. This meeting is concluded. Goto. He addressed one of the uniformed staff, standing off to the side. Please take Muichiro inside. As for you, Yuichiro, please remain here. There is something I would like to discuss with you before you rest. Muichiro watched as the hashira bowed and made their way out of the courtyard. The guy the master had called looked unbelievably nervous as he grabbed the basket and approached Muichiro. The child demon stared back with wide, empty eyes and split pupils gone again. He even let go of his arm as he crawled back into the basket, the man looking as if he might faint the whole while. He ran off hastily after that, and Muichiro's eyes slid to the trail of his brother's blood staining the floor. What the hell? Even if it was logical for a demon slayer corpse to distrust a demon, who the hell would put a kid through this? The guy provoked and attacked Muichiro. He had every right to defend himself, yet he would have been killed if he had done so. What kind of trial was that? Soon it was just him and the master left in the garden. Please, come sit down. Muichiro glared suspiciously, but try as he might, he couldn't detect any duplicity in the man's voice. He sat down a few feet before the master and grimaced. That purple sickness on his face looked even worse up close. You have my sympathies for what has befallen you and your brother. It cannot be easy to have so much responsibility at a young age. The master began after a moment of quiet. Yuichiro struggled. He didn't need any more pity, but the man sounded genuinely sincere, so he found it hard to get mad, or maybe he was just too tired after everything that had happened today. Yeah, well, you're the reason my brother's still alive, right? So, thank you. The master chuckled. There was no need for thanks. In truth, I foresaw this event. At the sight of Yuichiro's wide-eyed shock, he continued, My family is blessed with a certain level of future sight, you see, and I was granted a precognition of the night of the demon attack. I feared for your safety, which is why I sent Kyojo to accompany Amanai. However, I could not be truly sure of what the vision meant until Amane sent me the message explaining your situation. Huh? You mean you knew that Mui became a demon? As I said, the vision was vague. You are both very special children, so I wish to protect you both. Because of our bloodline, right? Muichiro asked bitterly. You think we can learn this first breathing because our ancestors did, right? Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but only one of us wanted to protect people from demons, and he's a demon himself now, so you're out of luck. I understand. It is true that your bloodline's potential is what drew our interest to you in the first place, but I will not begrudge you for not wishing to fight. The life of a demon slayer is perilous, and it's a hard fare to ask anyone to lay down their life for our cause. If you do not wish to fight, we can arrange for a new home for you. And what about Mui? Admittedly, his condition complicates matters significantly. Even with my approval, many of the hashira and corps members as a whole will be wary of his presence here. However, Tamayo has offered to take Muichiro in if necessary. I trust that she'll be able to best meet his needs while keeping him safe. Muichiro glowered at the proposal. The mere suggestion that the two of them be separated, that Muichiro should spend the rest of his eternal life with demons instead of his family, was insulting. Spiteful words towards the leader of the demon slayers bubbled up in his throat, but he knew better than to spit them out, not when their well-being was entirely dependent on this man's good graces. Despite the master's seeming honesty, despite his proposals toward other options for the twins, in reality, there was no choice at all. There was only one way Yuichiro could stay with his brother, one way that he could maybe get his real brother back someday. His fists clenched, nails digging into his skin. Tamayo said there might be a way to turn Mui back into a human, but it depends on collecting the blood of powerful demons. The master nodded. No doubt she means the blood of the 12 demon moons. It is certainly no easy task. The demon moons are elusive and powerful. Even the hashira have yet to see an upper moon and live to tell of it. But we did. Or Mui did. Muichiro recalled. 6 eyes, he had said. Upper Moon 1. Certainly the blood of that demon would be enough for Tamayo's research, but could such a monster even be killed? Seemed impossible, but he had to try. For Muichiro, the little brother he could protect. Muichiro knew he wasn't one of the chosen ones. He wasn't as strong or kind as his brother, but there was no other choice now. I need to save him. I need to kill the demon who did this to him. To do that, I need to become a demon slayer. He bowed his head to the floor, desperation triumphing over pride. So please, let me join the demon slayer corps. For just a moment, the master looked shocked, and then he smiled, a kind, proud, and sad smile. Very well. We are grateful to have you, my child. And that is the end of chapter 3. I hope you all enjoyed. Yap sesh. So, track's been going well. I had another meet, and it was fun. I did, instead of long jump in the 200, I did long jump in jav, and I actually did pretty well. So yeah, and then I have an honor band thing tomorrow, so I'm playing trumpet for our honor band. I have to drive 2 hours away to a completely different town, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm unfortunately missing track practice for it, but gotta do what you gotta do. So yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot to talk about. There was a school dance yesterday, and I went with my beautiful girlfriend, and it was a lot of fun. It was Tolo, and the theme was Y2K, and my mom was 19 during Y2K, so I had my outfit was definitely Y2K, and yeah, it was this silver dress this silver knee-length dress with twirlies. I had and it was super super twirly, super spinny, and I had a sleeveless crop denim jacket. It was perfect. Oh, and then my mom did my hair all cute, and by the end I had a bunch of streamers in my hair because there was this door separator made of streamers at the dance, and a bunch of the streamers fell off. And so me and my girlfriend decided, hey, what if we put these in my hair? Yeah, and so by the end I had a bunch of streamers in my hair. It was a lot of fun though, and I'm really happy I went. And I was also at the library. And I ended up writing 910 words, which, as someone who has a really hard time motivating myself to do stuff, I'm very proud of. It was all a single scene in a one shot that is currently 4,500 words. It's for a completely different fandom, so it's for Danny Phantom. So, yeah. And it's like it was a scene where he gets vivisected. So, which basically, if you don't know, is an autopsy, but you're alive. Um, and he was conscious for half of it. So basically, I'm torturing a character for fun, and it was over 900 words. So yeah, that happened. Um, so yeah. I don't really have a lot other stuff to yap about. So I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all have a good night or day wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.